You start things, a lot of things, a new skill, a new obsession, a new version of yourself you were sure would finally stick. And then something shifts. The curiosity fades. You move on. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice asks, "What is wrong with me?" Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But the real answer is stranger and far more important than you've been told. You probably grew up hearing one word more than any other: focus. Pick a lane. Commit. Specialize. The world rewarded people who went deep into one thing and stayed there. And so every time you wandered, every time you fell in love with something new and couldn't explain why, you filed it away as evidence of a flaw. A short attention span, a lack of discipline, a restlessness that would cost you. But here is what psychology has quietly been uncovering for decades. There is a specific kind of mind that does not work in a straight line. Psychologists call it multipotentiality, a term explored in vocational psychology in the 1970s, describing individuals who demonstrate high ability and deep interest across multiple, often unrelated domains. These are not scattered people. These are people whose nervous systems are calibrated differently. In cognitive neuroscience, this pattern is linked to higher openness to experience, one of the big 5 personality traits. Research consistently shows that high openness correlates with divergent thinking, creative synthesis, and the ability to make connections across separate fields. Your brain is not broken, it is hungry. The hunger has a name. It is called neophilia, the neurological drive toward novelty. Dopamine, the brain's primary reward molecule, spikes not just at achievement, but at discovery. For some minds, that spike is sharper, more frequent, more demanding. You were not distracted. You were following the signal your brain was designed to follow. Here is something no one told you. The model that said one person, one career, one skill, that model was built for one specific era, the industrial era. An era that needed humans to behave like parts in a machine, predictable, interchangeable, specialized. That era is ending. The emerging economy does not reward the deepest specialist or the broadest generalist. It rewards something in between. Economists and futurists call it the M-shaped skill curve. Picture the letter M, 2 peaks connected by a valley. The people who will thrive are not the ones who mastered a single tower of expertise. They are the ones who built 2 or more mountains of skill, and, crucially, who can move between them. A programmer who understands human psychology, a writer who can read data, a designer who thinks like a systems engineer. Your scattered interests were not a detour, they were construction. Let's go deeper. When you pursue multiple interests over time, something happens inside your prefrontal cortex, the seat of pattern recognition, abstraction, and complex reasoning. Each domain you explore becomes a schema, a mental framework, a lens. A schema is a filter the brain uses to process new information. Most people build one dominant filter, deep, powerful, but narrow. Your brain built several. And here is the part that matters. When 2 or more schemas overlap, the brain generates associative insight, a sudden, often unexpected connection between previously unrelated ideas. That is where creativity actually lives. Not in pure inspiration, not in raw talent, in collision. Psychologist Sarnoff Mednick's research on the remote associates test showed that highly creative individuals share one consistent trait. They can hold distant concepts in working memory simultaneously and find the hidden thread between them. That is a skill built through exactly the kind of wandering you were told to stop. Your curiosity was not the enemy of your depth, it was your depth. So, how do you work with this mind instead of against it? 3 principles. Principle 1. Stop escaping, start mapping.
Every time you feel the pull towards something new, do not judge it, document it. There is a concept in cognitive psychology called metacognition, thinking about your own thinking. When you track your interests over time, patterns emerge that are invisible in the moment. You are not randomly jumping, you are orbiting something. Find the orbit. Principle 2. Depth before departure. Research by psychologist Anders Ericsson on skill acquisition shows that the first 20 hours in any domain produce disproportionate insight. The learning curve is steepest at the beginning. You don't need 10,000 hours in everything. You need enough depth in each interest to extract a transferable lens, a way of seeing the world that you can carry into the next domain. Stay long enough to build the schema, then move. Principle 3. Design your intersections. The M-shaped future does not reward people who merely have multiple skills. It rewards people who consciously combine them in ways others cannot replicate. This is your moat. A concept from behavioral economics called comparative advantage applies here. Not competing in one area against specialists, but creating a unique combination no single specialist can match. A writer who understands neuroscience, a musician who thinks in systems. You are not competing on one peak, you are building a bridge between two. Here is the one mental model to carry with you. Think of yourself not as a person who cannot commit, but as a person building a compound mind. Each interest is a root. Most growth happens below the surface, invisible, without applause. For a long time, it looks like nothing is happening. Then, one day, everything connects. The roots find each other underground, and something grows that could not have grown from a single seed. This is called integrative complexity in psychological research. It's the cognitive ability to hold multiple perspectives and synthesize them into something new. It's one of the strongest predictors of leadership, creative output, and adaptability in complex environments. And it's built almost exclusively by people who were told they were too scattered to succeed. You were never the problem. The model was the problem. A model designed for a world that needed predictable people doing predictable things. That world is shrinking. The world replacing it needs something rarer. People who have lived in more than one world. People who can speak more than one language, not the spoken kind, but the cognitive kind. The language of design and the language of data. The language of science and the language of story. You were quietly learning both. Not because someone told you, because your brain could not stop itself. That is not a flaw. That is the shape of the future. And you were already growing into it before you ever knew what it was called.